Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming this evening. So, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
Well, before we do that, I would suggest maybe we remove 6C, board self-evaluation, since we're missing 2 board members.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of the board self-evaluation discussion item.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Dean. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment? Thank you. Okay, consent items. Do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
Motion to approve consent items.
Motion made by Ron.
Second.
Dean. Discussion?
I was wondering if we're doing an exit interview for the transportation manager, or who is doing that?
Todd did.
Okay, so it's done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion items. High school asbestos removal. Who took this on?
This was part of our 10-year plan. What we're going to be doing is coming up with a plan for removing the 9x9 asbestos tiles in multiple classrooms, both science rooms, band room, choir room, and then multiple classrooms in the original section of the school. It ends up being about a little over 16,000 square feet. We looked at the best option, and in talking to Todd and in talking to other buildings that have had it done, the polishing the concrete that's there and then staining it and sealing it is maintenance free, and it lasts forever. We've got a lot of concrete, so it's good. But there you've got the costs. It's already in the long-term facility maintenance plan, so we've got the money set aside for it. But it's one of those where, as we're coming up with the bid, I didn't want anybody surprised in January when we're going out for a bid on this. So if you want to do a separate approval on it, we certainly can do that. It's kind of a bigger project like we did with the last time UNESCO came in. And so when is this slated to happen, this summer?
This summer. It's slated to start as soon as school is out, so we can get the abatement people in here in June. And then as soon as it's done being abated, we can have the floors polished, so it's June and July. It really doesn't take long to abate the floor. They just have to basically get the tiles up and then they throw them out. So the longest part of the process is getting all the plastic in place and sealing off the areas. So we'll probably do it in the same kind of chunks we did before, where the science rooms would be done, sealed off, the hallway would be done, sealed off, and then the band room, the choir room would be sealed off. So my guess would be it's in 3 chunks, but that's part of what the asbestos design. So when Thad Dowling actually designs it, and he's the one that designed the abatement the last time that we had to have ceilings and some flooring. We had
building. He designed it the last time, so we'll see exactly what's necessary for, all of those.
We had a discussion about it at the facility meeting, the other day when Gary and I sat down, was it Monday, correct, Gary?
Yeah.
And, we'd like to at least move on and get bids, look at starting getting bids in January, that's the best time to get bids as opposed to waiting. So we figure we get approval to start going, that way we can get bids. Obviously, the bidding process will come back through us, but I believe these prices are what we were quoted last time. So it kind of gives you an idea about where it's at. That's why we allocated funds, set aside funds for it in the past, so we're ready. It's nothing new.
So that was just
But-
my question, is when is the board gonna act on this, but you just answered that, so it'd be when those.
Yeah. This is just so we're asking for approval to go out and get the bids, get it going. And then once we get going, the actual pricing will kind of follow. So, correct?
So we don't need a motion at this time?
No,
No,
this is
okay.
just discussion at the next
This is
board
just a
meeting.
discussion. We don't want to pop anything out and go, hey,
Okay.
So, you guys have any questions on it at all? Like I said, Gary and I talked about it at the facilities meeting, and we feel like since we've been discussing it and have the money set aside, we might as well keep going.
Yeah, especially something that involves this much money, it's good to give the board a little notice.
Okay. So no further discussion, no questions?
Okay, is it an all summer project?
It'll, I haven't seen, Thad who's willing to, in 2 weeks, we'll approve it, and then Thad was saying in December, he'll write up the plan. So my guess would be maybe 4 weeks for the abatement. And then they can, once the abaters are done, they can get in and start polishing in there. So there might be some things that can be done concurrently.
Well, when we talk to them, we should just, maybe Ron's already alluding to this, is since we use the gym a lot during the summer, if there are areas down there that we need to get done, maybe that can be first and move.
Yep.
Is that what you're thinking?
I just wondered if we have to make different arrangements for things.
So,
And I'm assuming they would start as soon as school is out.
Yep.
So that if there's a delay on any piece, we don't push up against
Right,
schools.
no, and that's why we're going out for bids in January, so we can lock in the earliest abatement crew.
okay. Any other questions? Okay, high school labs.
When we're talking about abating the floors in there, and we were talking about repiping, the table, all the black countertops in the science labs have asbestos. So those all have to be, if we've got the abatement going on with the floor, it just makes sense to abate those countertops at the same time. That's all the black countertops. So in the science rooms, it would be all of the countertops around the horseshoe in the classroom. In the chemistry classroom, it's all of those units coming out into the individual stations. And if we're going to do that, it just makes sense to, because we've been talking about rehabbing, remodeling the science rooms anyway. It doesn't make sense to put new countertops right where the old ones are if we're thinking about what the best configuration is. And so the science teachers have already been asked to look at different potential models of science rooms. They have been looking at different schools. I know Marty was up in Rochester this last week at a chemical safety class and was talking to other teachers about the best configuration. So that will need approval from the board, and we need that all drawn up before that that January bid. And then we can do repiping and everything at that same time. Questions on that?
This sounds like an expensive project.
It's kind of part of the abatement, I believe, when we talked about the abatement.
It's not included in that prior number, though. That
No,
was just
we-
for-
The abatement, the added cost of abating the countertops is really, not much.
Oh.
When you've got the floor, when you're paying for abatement, the main thing you're paying for is encapsulation of the air in that area. And then if they rip off, we probably should have done the floors the same time we did the ceiling, except replacing the floors. We just didn't have that planned in the budget. So we've got the replacement now with the polished concrete, but you're absolutely right. We need to look at, the money for rehabbing the science room too. So we have to figure out what the plan is first so we can get potential costs.
These are just discussion items, so you guys know this is kind of what we're looking at.
Right, well, we have one of our strategic priorities was curriculum and course offerings, and I think it wouldn't be a bad thing in thinking about the plan to have that group part of the discussion about what are some STEM or STEAM considerations for a science room, just,
No, good idea.
I
Discussion,
don't know, what do
talk about it.
you're on that group, aren't you, Mimi?
Meetings,
Which one?
STEM,
The
the
curriculum
curriculum.
I'm not-
Course
District
offerings.
are you on the district advisory?
I wasn't notified of the last meeting, so,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I can be, yeah. But I guess my concern is, I mean, I would love to spend money in science, but it feels like we should purposefully spend money in science, not just spend money because there's asbestos in the countertops. So, you know, I mean, we could go all out, but my concern is, you know, physics, we aren't even offering. So,
But that's where I'm thinking of those 4 strategic initiatives.
yes, but what I'm saying is, you know, I would love to have an awesome science lab, and I don't even know enough about physics. Do they use a lab at all? They do.
Yeah.
They do stuff. But I mean, I would love to have that, but if none of the kids are gonna take it, why are we
Well, but
doing
that's
it?
part of what is the direction of our science course offerings, and is it possible to make a room that is multi-purpose instead of,
And that's one of the things that teachers are looking at, because a lot of science rooms that are being remodeled or for new buildings, it's movable.
flexible learning
it's-
space.
It's a
Yeah.
flexible learning space, there's movable labs instead of having
Yeah.
the lab tables permanently affixed. They are tables that can pull out, so when you're doing the physics labs, if you're doing labs on motion, you can push everything off and have big floor space, or if it's labs on light, you can pull things in.
I mean, it could redesign the whole science lab, so you have to have Bunsen burners or whatever, they're in one place, but you have floor plugs, or you have, you know, you have a more, there's just lots of options. It's all expensive, but if we're gonna
Well, that's
be
why,
redoing it, let's do it so that it can perhaps meet our needs going forward.
right.
Robotics could maybe use the space, you know, I mean, that's just all I'm thinking, is that there are options to make it.
I think a lot of this started because of the water issues, plumbing, it kind of boiled up from there. Cause we had to replace plumbing in that
No
area.
pun intended.
Yeah, because we have to replace a lot of the plumbing fixtures in that area. So with that in mind, it's like, okay, if we have to do that, we're gonna have to take the tops off. If we have to do that, that's asbestos, you know, it all snowballs. So then if we're gonna do all this, we mentioned at the facility meeting again, that we talked to Todd and said, you need to have your teachers go out and say, okay, we don't wanna do this the wrong way. Let's do it the right way. Let's find out, you know, what are our courses gonna be? What do your teachers, what would they like to see? And you know, Mimi, you mentioned it before, don't just look for today, look down the road. How can we use this space? You know, where do we see ourselves as a school in 5, 10, 15, you know, years down the road? Are we prepared for the sciences that we need? I don't know, I don't think we are right now, But if we're gonna make changes, let's make them right and find out from other facilities what they're doing. And maybe it may not be everything we need, but I think collectively we can at least figure out what we want for the next, 10 years, 15 years? I don't know. But that's kind of what our directions were to Todd, right, Gary?
Yeah, I think, as Corinne mentioned, we're looking to the teachers to provide a little bit of leadership in terms of some of the possibilities, opportunities, and so forth.
So, but I think it's a good idea that you mentioned, you know.
Well, I mean, if we're
have the
thinking
curriculum.
about, you know, what are we offering? What are the course offerings we are currently giving that fit in that room? Are we gonna have physics again? You know, is it gonna be offered again, isn't it? I mean, you know, nobody's gonna be thinking about making it a physics room if we don't have a local physics teacher, unless it's somebody who's pushing for it, or whatever. And I know you're doing, isn't Marty doing, it's a more flexible type of chemistry thing, but
He's
we
got
don't,
he's got his chemistry license, so yeah, he's got,
he's not just doing
couple-
the environmental chemistry thing.
no, he's got regular college phone chem, and then he's got the chemistry for those who,
It's the other track.
the other track, the chemistry for graduation.
Okay, well, so that curriculum and course offerings things, we should be getting information from the public. What kind of classes do they want to see being offered? I think science is important.
And I agree, I think science is important too, but I think we need to look at it as, these are all the possible, I mean, let's just say it's $10,000 to replace the, I'm throwing out a number, $10,000 to replace the tabletops. I don't know if that's true, and it's $200,000 to reconfigure the science. I mean, it's gonna end up being a lot of money. And is that what we wanna spend the money on? And I mean, I love science, but there's lots of things out there, and if we're asking the science teachers, are we asking all the other teachers? I mean, I don't know if there's any other classrooms that are really lacking in what they need. I know science has their labs,
But that's why the flexible space would permit it to be used for something other
yeah, but I'm
than
saying is
science.
band have everything they need, and choir and math, and you know, what are all the teachers? They should all be telling us what
Oh,
they
yeah, they
want,
should
right?
be.
We keep
Yeah.
telling them, tell us
Yeah.
What
what
do
you
we
want.
need, what are the space needs?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I just don't think that because it has asbestos tabletops is a reason to redo the science. I think we should redo the science room if we want to redo the science room.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I don't want to. Sounds like a good idea.
Well, we're gonna get a cost on it, so we know what we're dealing with.
Chemistry ones are more, if you got just chemistry instead of physics, your chemistry rooms are gonna be much more expensive than a physics room. You should have a wash station in there,
We've got a wash
there's
station.
definitely, so.
Just about every lab has to have a wash station in it,
Yeah.
but you also have to have,
your
I
Bunsen
don't know what,
burners,
you said Marty was at a conference, so just securing the
chemicals.
chemicals and making sure they're labeled properly and having somebody on
Our chemical
site
room
who
needs
is,
some rehab. as well.
that's expensive and that really needs to be done. That's a safety,
That's a health and safety.
that's a health and safety
And
concern
maybe
that
there's
should not
ways,
be.
monies that we can get for certain things from other ways, there may be ways out there for,
Well,
to
the
get
health and
monies.
safety rolled into long-term facility
Yeah,
maintenance, so it's all
so-
the same pot.
No, but I mean, if there's ways of getting grants or
Mhm.
to redo these things, I don't know. But again, it's just, we wanted to bring it up here so you know what we're looking at, so we have your input. And I think, all these are good inputs, so.
I vaguely remember, Corinne, did we talk about it like a year or two ago with the district advisory group, and some of the elementary teachers got excited about the possibility of being able to bring their kids over and do experiments in a
Very,
lab.
very.
So there was,
And so
it's
we
coming
said-
back to me now, but
right,
it was a
and-
long time
Oh, yeah,
ago,
it's been a
but
while.
having access and having it set up really nice, even the elementary teachers were excited about that.
And if it's a flexible space, especially with countertops that adjust, you can actually adjust it down, so a 9-year-old would have a table at the right level.
And maybe that would be our way to make sure that enough kids are interested in physics by the time they get to be
Right.
seniors.
Okay. Well,
Thank
more to come on that. Any other questions on it? Good conversation. Okay, old business, items for discussion and approval, resolution for the retirement of Rosine Michaeline.
Well, as has been kind of our practice, Rosine submitted her letter of retirement, or notice of retirement, beginning of September, with an effective date coming up here, beginning in November. And Angela, I was in contact with Angela, she sent me some things, so I would like to introduce this resolution and move for its adoption. Whereas Rosine began her employment with MN Minnesota Virtual Academy, part of Houston Public Schools, as an administrative assistant in May 2006. And whereas when MNVA K-8 became a managed school, Rosine facilitated the expansion of MNVA services by transitioning to the position of student support advisor to assist online students and their families. And whereas Rosine worked consistently to support students in Minnesota Virtual Academy to the best of her ability over these many years, assisted students with positivity, and faithfully completed her work in a timely manner. And whereas Rosine was always willing to lend a helping hand to fellow student advisors, I think there's a grammar thing there, in MNVA, and promoted the MNVA community by building relationships with her colleagues and by establishing personal connections with her coworkers. Now be it resolved that Houston School Board wishes to thank Rosine Maycomber for her longstanding dependable service to Houston Public Schools, and wishes her all the very best in her retirement.
I second the motion.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll miss her, because I talked to her at noon, and when she's on her walk,
Oh, really? Okay.
and she's one of my lions.
She's got a grandbaby coming in
Yeah.
February, and she's really looking forward to being a grandma.
Yeah.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Michaeline. Date and time for World's Best Workforce hearing.
This was on the agenda last time, and with the discussion, looking at either November 1st or November 15th, it was discussed that November 15th was probably a better date. And do you want it set for 6:30 so that we have time to get done with the regular business of the board first?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Anybody have an issue with that? Mike, good?
Nope.
Okay, so. You got a motion to set the date and time? So
We do.
Yes.
I'll make,
one.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay. We got a motion, we got a second, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Concrete work for preschool and elementary school.
Okay.
So we'll discuss today.
This is what is the drawing for elementary handicapped accessibility at the gym entrance. Chris Nelson, in looking at that, said if skim coating is done correctly, the steps will look brand new and they will stay that way for years. Rick Bartz had Chris skim coat steps for him about 4 years ago, and the steps still look brand new. And so Chris said he's not quite sure in knocking those out how much damage would be done to the building in knocking out that existing concrete. So what he would do is to knock off just the very northwest section.
Right-hand side when you're facing.
The right-hand side when you're facing it, that little step, and then put the ramp right up to that. And so the ramp, to make sure that we've got ADA compliant elevation, the ramp would go and extend about 8 feet beyond the building toward Sherman Street. And there's the bid for that in your packet. That work would be, 70, there, $7,185.
So what's this entrance, is that to the entrance?
That's
So
just,
the whole thing would look new, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Whole thing would look new.
Into the gym, okay, this is the gym side.
This is the
Yeah.
gym, so the gym
Okay.
has handicapped accessibility then.
Okay,
Cause right now, for anyone else coming to the gym, if they're coming in, they have to come through the side door and kind of wheel around this way, they can actually come through that main entrance.
And when would this get done?
We were hoping this fall, and, Chris said there's still that possibility that it could be done this fall. But the rain has really hampered his work, and so there's a lot of other work that has gotten backlogged, but he said he would try to get it done this fall. Then the other one that we need to talk about is the preschool. There's another bid in your packet for new sidewalk at the preschool. And that would be replacing the front sidewalk all the way over to, the entire frontage on Grant Street. And then also adding a new sidewalk, parallel to Elm Street. And we'll actually knock out that little sidewalk that's there right next to the curb and move the whole sidewalk up onto the lawn more, so that when the plows come through, it doesn't just plow the sidewalk over again. And then once again, he said that, he'd remove the existing step landing, and, then he would skim coat the, preschool steps.
There's nothing we can do to make them any safer?
That's the wrong one, that, we're not doing that one. It's,
Yeah, we haven't gotten the skim coat yet.
we haven't gotten the skim coat.
Is there anything, because those preschool steps are really treacherous, is there?
As far as treacherous, as far as steepness, or?
They scare me, the
They're
ones that
steep
go
and
up,
they're
I see
crumbled
kids
and-
hanging on them and they're,
This should be blocked off somehow or not.
well, you're talking about skim coating those
Yeah,
steps?
and so that there, so there's no cracks in them. He would actually, what he talked about was taking out the bottom step and then repouring the bottom step and then skim coating the rest of the steps going up, so they would look brand new again.
They kind of, I can't
The bottom one
visualize
is,
it.
the bottom one is cracked, and that's the one that would get taken out and repoured. He said even if he removed all those steps, he'd still have to pour the bottom two, but then what we would get is a precast from like Weezer's and set that on top, and he said, I'm not sure about the durability anytime you're trying to marry a precast step set to a poured pad. He said there's, with any type of settling, it's not a product he feels great about doing, and so he said the skim coating, once again, you know exactly what you're getting there, and if he knocks those, I'm not even sure, that's, most people were saying as far as knocking those out, they're not sure what's behind it, they weren't sure what was put into the construction of those steps in the first place. They were built on when the building was raised so that they could put a basement underneath it, because when it was originally built, it was right on the ground and it kept flooding, so.
How wide are those, how wide are the steps
That are there?
Yeah.
Probably wide as
About.
these two tables, what do you think?
Oh, it'd be
8 feet.
possible to
It's not that
anchor
wide.
in some handrails?
Not that wide.
They're not that wide.
They're not that wide, but
Not
they're
wide.
short.
Well, pretty
They're
wide.
about
Hey,
6
you mean
feet.
down-
I'd say 6.
I mean,
About 6.
I'd say
They're
about
about
6
6.
feet.
6 feet side to side?
Yeah.
They're wide enough that I have, just when I walk down them, I think, I wish there was a railing in the middle.
That's what I just said, is there
Sounds
some
like
way,
an
is
idea
there
we could
some
put
way
in
to
there.
put a middle railing for safety so
yeah.
that people have a handrail if they're,
That's a possibility. We have to
Yeah,
talk
we
to that
could-
guy anyway, for the other rail.
Especially if he's pouring the bottom step,
Yeah.
to be able to
anchor it.
anchor down in there.
Yeah.
That would at least
Yeah,
help.
good
right?
idea.
Yeah, I just see kids run up and down, I mean,
Yeah.
they're concrete, it's not like they're
Yeah.
gonna
No.
forgive you at all.
Well, and somebody loses their balance, they have nothing to grab onto when they're.
We should make a note of that, Corinne, so we can see on that one guy.
So
Since
they
we're
have
not-
something to slide down.
I know, that's,
Yeah.
they have to, it has to be not enticing for gymnastics,
So you make it narrower.
but yet
Put spikes on,
practical, I
put
don't,
spikes on top of it.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody doesn't do what you do, Ron.
When I call the Ironworks guy, I'm not going to say, could we have a non-enticing railing?
No, no. I don't think anyone that you do, they will figure out a way of sliding down it or something, you know that.
As long as they don't do it on a skateboard.
And are the side railings, can they slip out? Those stairs are so steep, I just have to look at them again, like if somebody, could a little kid slip out?
You'd have to like swing out on the side to
Oh.
try to slip.
no,
It's
I
in
thought
all-
the sides were all built up, but
Right, the sides are out, they're definitely out on they're not close to they're in the middle of those.
could you walk down the railing? They're like, thick, are they
Yeah.
thick?
Okay, I have to look.
And then
I'm just
there's the
thinking,
metal-
do that?
whatever
Yeah.
it takes to make it.
I like the idea of in the middle, that's a pretty good
I
idea.
like that middle idea.
Yeah.
Except, so we can get Chris going, do we have the approval to do the,
The kind of-
handicapped accessible for the elementary with the skim coating of the elementary steps, and then the new sidewalks at the preschool with the skim coating of the preschool steps. And then we've gotta talk to the Ironworks guy anyway for the railing for the elementary school, so we'll talk to the Ironworks guy for the preschool.
My only concern is next Friday, Saturday, Sunday is musical, so,
It won't be done that fast.
okay, I mean, it would be horrible, because that's the entrance we use, it would just be
No,
horrible
it
to
wouldn't
have
be.
had it all ripped up and,
No,
So wouldn't it make more sense to make these two separate things until you find out what it's gonna cost to do the railing, or, cause that's gonna add.
the railing
just an
isn't,
add-on.
the railing isn't with Chris Nelson, the railing
Yeah.
isn't.
And it's not
separate.
done at
different
the
bid.
same, it wouldn't even be done at the same time?
No,
No.
he
Okay.
puts the holes in there so the railing guy can come in
Oh,
after the
okay.
fact.
Alright,
You probably just drill holes.
Mhm. Put anchors in there.
so which one is the quote for the, I know it was 7,000,
7,100,
and they're with different companies?
no, same
No.
company.
It-
There was just some confusion on, cause we had been looking to get different bids for it. And
So
then
where
Chris-
is the
that's
Badger?
That's the bid
Oh, no,
for-
that's just the
his
notebook
paper he put it on.
paper that Chris had at home.
Yeah, that's the paper he put it on.
Saves money.
Okay.
They give you that paper if you buy $100,000 worth of
I'm
product.
super confused. Okay, so this is Chris Nelson, but
They're both Chris Nelson.
one says Burnow Concrete.
No,
No, they're Chris Nelson.
that was
When I
another
click,
bid.
That's
That's
that-
another
when I
separate
click on
bid.
it, it comes up
It's Burno.
Burno.
That-
Yeah,
That's a
there
different,
were all kinds of different
But
quotes
how do
that
I
we
get
got.
to that, how do I get to that one? When I click in the agenda?
Just slide your arrow over
Way
there
over?
someplace, and it came up for me once.
I have 3 separate links in there, so you gotta kind of look in. Preschool and is one, and then elementary is another, and.
I got it. Okay, so,
so it's $9,800 for the preschool sidewalk.
and the other one was written
Yeah.
on the, just written and it's
Yeah.
7,000.
Correct,
Okay,
exactly. And on the preschool one, why they're doing that, they will be putting in that AD entrance ramp on the curbs, you know, like you see them doing in town, cause that's required at the same time.
and there'll be sidewalks all around the building.
Front, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
which would be really nice. We don't
All,
want the kids
and all the
walking
way
down
through
streets, right?
to where the house was, correct?
Yeah. that's
All, you know where the house, yeah, all the way through.
So all the way to the end
That
of our
whole corner,
property
yeah,
on
all our
Grant.
And will it
property.
connect, is there any sidewalk?
Yeah, there's another side.
And it'll connect there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It It will not, on the Elm Street side, it will not line up with the neighbor's existing sidewalk to the east toward the elementary, because that's
Past the
right
alley.
next to the curb. And it just doesn't work to have the sidewalk right
Yeah.
next to the
Yeah.
curb.
I didn't
Nobody,
even know there was one there.
Yeah, there is, but it's about, what, this wide or something, and it's right off the curb, and then you got a sidewalk.
I make my own sidewalk during the winter time.
Yeah, it's not
and
good.
so people you've been shoveling a strip down the grass.
Yep.
And where they've been shoveling that strip down the grass, that's where we're putting the sidewalk, cause it makes sense to walk there, so that's where the sidewalk's going.
So do we have a motion to approve the 2 bids?
Motion.
Motion made by Ron,
Second.
second by Gary. Further discussion on it? And we'll follow up on the metal. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving right along. Gym door replacement. Did you guys talk about this last time?
Yeah. It's, what we've got on there is painting of the doors is included, so they added, $225 to it, $225 or $250, I'm sorry, I should have checked that before the meeting. But it was, $225.
Appreciate it.
Okay, because they will do the, they will paint the gray to match the door that we have going into the lift for the band room. They will give us, if there's any paint left over, they'll give us the paint so we can do touch-ups on the doors. Because this is the steel gauge door. It's very durable. All the locking mechanisms are inside the door. So there's nothing visible that can get damaged the way the existing door is, and that's been the issue.
I think our discussion at the last meeting, since you guys weren't here, is we wanted to hear from facilities.
Yeah, we talked about the facility meeting, we discussed both doors, and that's where kind of why the painting and things came up. You know, what do we want to do on the metal? We talked to Todd. The way to go, it seemed to us, was the 18 gauge steel door, as opposed to the other way, just because that would match the door we just put on the band room,
The band room lift.
the door, that door. So it would coincide with that. So if you know what that looks like?
Yeah, there'd just been, I think maybe it was Josh, there was some concern about maybe wood would fit down there, and we just wanted to.
We talked about it, but, you know, then since we already made the other one metal,
The lift.
the lift one metal, that would seem like,
That's the one metal door down there. The band room door right next to it is wood.
yeah.
But Todd felt that the steel gauge would probably be a little more durable if it's getting hit with
Balls.
walls and.
No, I don't, I'm just trying to say, you know,
No,
we did
no.
talk about this, but
Yeah.
we stalled out without our leaders here, our facilities committee.
It's good to have a smaller window.
Yeah.
It's only 6 wide, I think, but
4 wide.
four wide. So that's gonna give a lot of door, maybe instead of painting, how about some artwork?
Maybe we can do
Hurricane
something
or
on it.
something, or a basketball player on there?
Basically,
volleyball player?
the door comes primed,
Yeah,
and that's why we're painting
but
it
that's
this
what I
way, but
mean.
then we could probably do like you said, maybe put some creative whatever on it down the road.
They got it down the road.
I'm not saying now, I'm saying down the road.
So then-
Mimi, she's an artist, you said you could paint it, right?
Yeah.
Flowers. Okay, so do we have a motion to purchase a new door for the gym?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion on the door? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Policies for second reading. Again, we didn't get any kickback last time on it, you know?
No,
So do we need to give just a motion to approve policy 509, 515, 516, 521, and 532?
So moved.
Is there a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Michael Lee. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? New business. Oh,
Yeah, Lisa found out, at a meeting she attended, I think on Tuesday, that they have money again for the foundation grant. And it needs to be in to them before, November 1st. And so she brought this in, apologized, and, I apologize that it's late and, that you're asked to act on it. However, for us to get the money to pay for, some of the things this grant has paid for in the past, it's kind of a, it just makes a lot of sense, and it's the only way we get the money. This is paid for education for coaches, it's paid for the Why We Play books for our coaches. It, also, pays for some kiddos that can't afford to otherwise pay for their user fees. So it's based on, it doesn't say the actual dollar amount, but, we've got 37 kiddos, and so that they will figure out how much money they have and will send it to us, but to pass this, we actually need to pass this resolution.
So has this grant not been available for some years? I thought it was kind of automatically.
yeah.
No, it has not been available for, legislatively, they pulled the funding the last year or the year before. And so it's been 1 or 2 years where we have not had this, and so now they reinstated it again.
So the funding's coming from Minnesota State High School, or?
It's funded by, the tax rebate, so they don't have to do taxes, or whatever taxes they're collected goes toward this.
We've done this many times. in the
Yes.
past.
Yeah,
It's
well, we
nothing
have,
new.
I just thought it was,
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
it ran, that we didn't have money to do this.
I can't
Or
remember
we
last time we
didn't.
didn't do it, but.
Mhm.
No, we haven't
So
done
we
it
need
for
to
the
make a
last,
motion to,
or no, we need to pass the resolution.
pass the resolution.
So somebody needs to enter the resolution.
Do you want to enter that one?
I move that, make a resolution that our school board, support the application form for Minnesota High School.
Should I read through the whole thing?
No.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion, got a second, further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Announcements?
Thank you.
Point events, MSBA Annual Leadership Conference. Here, you're going, right? You'll be missed.
The leadership conference is January 17th and 18th. Once again, up in the cities. They're starting to take hotel reservations, and I know that's a ways off. But if you start looking at your calendars and figure out who can attend, it's usually a very good conference.
We don't know if we'll be reelected.
No. You don't get picked up, can't go around, sorry. We'll be on the sidelines.
On the
So if anybody
outside,
wants to go to that, and if we get a new person, that would be good.
Another, as far as important event, after, last weekend, I got this on, October, I think 12th. We had, on our Houston High School Facebook post, 17,523 people clicked on our Facebook post. where we had, Lisa had put on, about supporting Micah Johnson. And so then, because there were all kinds of likes on it, and there were 1,492 reactions, comments, and shares, we now have all kinds of people that liked and are now following our Facebook page. So that's in with that strategic initiative as far as marketing. I wanted to let you know that was happening.
Good. Anything else on important events?
I already said it, but I'll say it again, musical next weekend, Friday, I think it's at 7:30, Saturday at 2, and Sunday at 2. Tom missed it last year, don't be like Tom and miss it. Because Tom, tell me, people asked you, right?
Oh, yeah,
they
I
have
got
come
it
up.
up after that.
And he felt horrible about it, so he's
Yeah.
gonna make it this year, he's gonna adjust his schedule and make sure he's there, cause it's
What were the times on Saturday? 2?
2, because they think there's going to be a playoff game that night, so if there is, then there won't be a
There's plenty of room.
conflict. Yeah, so
And
people,
it's 2 o'clock on Sunday.
yes, there's 2
Okay.
matinees, Saturday and Sunday. Always check the website to make sure I'm right on those, but I'm pretty sure it's 7:30 and 2
You
and
could
2.
win on Tuesday, you got a game on Saturday.
Yeah.
So Lisa said.
Yeah, there's playoff games, I shouldn't probably be saying all this, but there's playoff games this week.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tuesday, we talked about
Tuesday,
Tuesday night.
Monday is volleyball, Tuesday.
Monday's
Monday's
volleyball,
volleyball,
Tuesday.
Tuesday's football.
Okay.
And then if we win on Tuesday, we play Saturday.
Saturday.
Right,
And I
which would
think
be the
those
same night as
should both be here, maybe.
Not sure.
I'm thinking
Saturday.
Saturday. We'll find
Here
out.
in Manchester.
We're ranked pretty high, I think. Okay, anything else? Meeting and committee updates? Gary, we had facilities.
Okay, I would like to start with number 7, the preschool playground update, because it looks like there's significant progress over there.
It is, the whole preschool playground that was ordered is in. There's a couple things that are left to be placed, however, those are our old pieces of equipment. And so, to make sure that kids can play on it, chips are in, dirt has been spread, it's good to go on Monday. And so then it's the fence, and you guys approved the fencing around the preschool, so then that's, so the board knows it's a 4-foot high fence, so it's not, if you're, it's going to keep,
Razor wire on the top.
no, it's going to keep short kids in, but it's not,
It
it's
won't
not,
keep my son in, probably.
Okay, what's the style of the fence? I mean, is the fencing horizontal or vertical, or?
it's
Chain
the,
link
it's the Phillips,
Oh, it's
Chain
chain link? It is
chain-
chain link?
Yeah,
but it's
mine is
brown, it's a brown,
Okay,
brown galvanized, so it blends right in with the building.
okay.
But that's,
It's
It's-
not coated plastic, it's
Yeah, it's
galvanized.
got a
or is
vinyl.
it
It's
coated
got a
plastic?
vinyl, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
coated
vinyl.
vinyl, okay,
Yeah,
so
okay.
whatever Phillips brown, yes,
Oh, we should get some of those snap-in things.
Yeah, we talked about that.
yep. And there
They
will
have
be
those on
an
the
8-foot,
Mhm.
it's going to be level with the building in the front. So
I got
it's
a
going
map here if
to
anyone wants to look at it.
encompass a lot more area than
Yes,
just the
first.
playground, so that there will be green space, but there also will be an 8-foot gate, so they can easily get the mower in and out.
And are we gonna leave the gates open on this? Is it open?
There, I don't think there's any reason to lock these
You mean,
gates.
oh, yeah.
I was just
You can
wondering, I
climb
mean,
over.
It's
sometimes,
for, I almost could climb over that fence, so, yeah.
well, I'm just saying sometimes playground, I mean,
Yeah.
usually, well, we have the courts, right? We
Yeah.
lock them at a certain time. I was just wondering if this was just, I'm not saying we have to lock it at a
Sometimes
certain
we
time.
do, and-
I'm just wondering if it's always gonna be open to the
Yeah,
public.
yeah.
You get
Yeah.
over there.
I can't imagine ever needing to lock this one. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh,
interrupt.
That's fine, that's fine.
Any questions on that?
So it'll be children playing soon?
Oh,
Yeah,
children
Monday.
playing on Monday, or they could probably run
Right
over
now.
there and
Okay,
pay right now.
but the preschoolers will, Monday will be their big first
Yes,
day.
Oh, and believe me, they have been looking at that
Oh, yeah, I know.
yes.
Julie,
dearly.
You could wait on the windshield pile. Throw some pennies in there.
I'm sure I'll hear all about it Monday.
yeah,
Okay, other things we talked about was piping replacement at the high school. Haven't you talked about that yet, did you, Corinne?
Nope.
Okay. Talked about PEX versus copper, and it sounds like copper would be actually less expensive than PEX.
Right.
yeah. That's a good
Or
question.
Winona couldn't.
So that's something that needs to be done and move forward, but of course, we can't start on that until the crawl space water goes down enough to allow
Is it
anybody
the
to work
same
there.
diameter? Because it seems to me like the copper could only be less expensive if it was
Mm-hmm.
a smaller diameter, which is gonna be maybe not the best choice.
What they have told us is that, because we are stringing the piping over such long areas, it requires a lot more labor as far as tying it up with the PEX.
Okay,
And so they said that the labor cost, it's not the PEX that costs more money, it's the added labor to actually install it in those large expanses.
I just wanna make sure the gauge.
Well, I'm assuming the
Yes,
size of the copper is gonna be the same as
you're right.
the pipe
Okay.
that's
Yes.
there.
Okay,
Yeah, because we had the same question.
Okay.
The meeting, it's like, okay, how can that be?
How can this be?
Yeah.
We also talked about the garage renovation update or project. And one of the things they're going to do there, in addition to adding on to it, is redo the garage doors that are already there, move them out so that they're not inset like they are now, and then put openers on the doors. And
It's the map here.
yeah,
So they'll have storage space in the back.
right.
so
And
that
it's a
they're coming
storage
out this
space.
way?
Divvied up already, or?
So
We're-
these,
So
see these doors
I
that are
think the,
inset?
the
Yes.
Oh, that
smaller
one's
one is
out.
going to go
Okay. Oh, I
for,
see. I see, yeah.
MNVA,
The trusses
for
were
their
designed for
stuff.
that anyway.
and then, because we can't store
So,
paper out there.
it makes
And so
sense.
it's not a place for
Yeah.
their files, but for some of their totes, for some of their other stuff. And then the two larger ones, one goes to, Fayed for all of their outside equipment, and the other one goes to Drama Club. So the Drama Club will actually have a
So
dry place for
this is a
costumes
two,
and
we have
for
two now, existing,
sets
then they're adding
and,
all of this other part. And then they're gonna
And then Kevin also talked about
move the doors forward.
talking to the electrician and seeing if the students can do some of the rough in wiring
Okay.
for
So
as
this
part
all
of their
gets stored
class,
back here.
classwork, which would be really good experience for them. Anything else in the garage renovation?
the stall on the far left, the facility committee, in talking about it, didn't think we needed individual bays, so we don't need to have walls in between the stalls. It can just be open, because we've got the storage in the back. If after the fact we find that we need to do some extra storage, then we can, Kyle will have it roughed in, so if we need to put in a wall, we can, but there isn't a need for that right now.
The other thing we talked about was how to manage all the water coming off the roof to get it away from the garage. And one idea Kevin talked about was putting, Kyle, an underground drainage to take the water out to the, well, what's that called, the ponding area?
Rain garden.
Yeah.
Rain garden, there we go, yeah. So he's looking at a way to get that water away from the buildings and the garage so that it quits doing damage.
And that's nothing that could be done. He said nobody would be digging those in now, that would be something you'd put in the spring, or the earliest.
Right.
But you need to make sure that you're ponding it so it's not causing more problems for the softball field, but we need to get it out to the south into a ponding area there, so it doesn't impact the softball field and it doesn't erode the gravel around the base of the garage.
Yeah,
And
cause
that's
the
what
water
happened.
evidently is coming off and going right in front of that garage into the gymnasium area or into the fields, where we can control it so it goes out towards that hillside, like where Tipper, below the hill there, over in that area.
Sounds like another good project for the kids.
Yeah, so he's gonna look into that. Again, like Quinn said, it won't be something we'll do this year, but it's just on the horizon.
Yeah, so just turn the kids loose with the backhoe.
Well, no, well, I mean, even just
Shovels.
design, I meant designing it and
Yeah.
figuring it out. You know,
Oh,
what are the
yeah.
options?
Yeah.
Cisterns, and they get hauled to the community garden. I mean,
And
they could come up
actually-
with all sorts of good ideas.
In CAD, in his CAD class, that would be one heck of a project to draw that, because then you'd have to do the CAD as far as underground trenching. What's your trench going to be? It'd be a cool
Well,
project.
we can catch the rainwater and then we can have our biology put a greenhouse out
Exactly.
there.
There you go.
Nope.
That'd be cool. And that could be a classroom.
Yeah.
See, we
Okay.
can come up with ideas all day long.
Okay, moving right along, Gary.
I think that's about it. I mean, we couldn't pretty much cover everything else we talked about.
Anybody have any
It
questions
was a
on
long
it?
meeting.
Yeah, it's a good meeting,
Got a lot done.
Any questions on any of that? Thanks, Gary.
One last thing for facilities, the conference banners got hung up in the gym today. And so before we always had the big round signs for each of the member schools in the conference. There are now banners that match the banners that are on the walls. They're banners like that of each of the schools in the conference, and it's right up above the band room door. And so the gym is done.
Except for the door.
Oh, except for that.
That's what I
Okay, gym is almost done.
It looks nice. Have you
Yeah.
guys, has anybody seen it with all the new wall by the band and all that? Looks really nice. Let's say.
I've been away.
Go in and
Monday, volleyball, go.
Yep.
there's
Okay.
That looks really nice.
It's been,
in Fort, there have been a lot of changes in the last 3 years.
you might say it's been a banner year.
Okay.
You know, I should have also said when I was mentioning stuff, it's the music boosters auction the following Monday.
Yes.
So you've got
Oh,
musical,
yeah.
and then the next Monday would be music boosters, so y'all wanna come to that too.
Sounds good.
What night is that?
Monday.
What day?
It's not the coming Monday, it's, I'll tell you, 29th.
I think I go to that one. Okay, thank you. Anything else on that? Okay, board superintendent feedback.
Oh, district advisory
Oh,
board.
I'm sorry, district advisory.
That's, my question was membership, and, the note I had from the meeting didn't match. We've got conflicting notes, so I'm sorry that you didn't get, we've got 2 board members on that. And so that matches that you and Jean are the 2 board members?
Yep.
Okay.
I think so. Were you on it in the past?
I was on
Yeah.
it in the past, but in
She's the
January.
past. You're the future.
Yeah, I'm a dinosaur.
I think I was in the past as well, but,
You and I were on it the previous
Yeah,
year,
okay.
and then Jean wanted to participate, so.
And we did meet and, we went over the draft of the World Best Workforce Report and everything, and Corinne had a lot of it. We kind of made notations and those things and everything else, and went over the complete thing. And, we looked at the rubrics from the previous year to answer those questions that they had on it pretty well on that. We worked at, what our committee is supposed to be made up of, and we did get, the car girl as a student, Haley, on it. We still we're looking for a business person is what we need on there.
Amy Geiwitz
And
will,
And we didn't say that just because the name came up.
Amy is going to be both And,
For the early childhood and the.
right, well, no,
Summit.
no, she's,
Business.
works in Summit, she's a representative of Local 70, and she's a parent,
Okay.
so she wears lots of hats.
Still a business.
Yeah, she's not the
component,
business.
No.
One business component possible. Other than that, we also need to put a $1,200 word about
1,200
that
characters.
doesn't cover 1,200 characters, not words, characters.
Characters.
Small word.
Yeah.
Characters. A tweet, double tweet.
And that's,
And we're gonna let Corinne write that, and then we'll say it's okay or not.
A double tweet, I love that. That's good. He's so up to speed on everything.
Yeah.
So that was,
Check what part of the head there on that, so.
we had a small group, but we had a productive meeting, I felt.
Good. Anything else on that?
next meeting is November 5th.
Okay. Put that down.
Okay, that's it for that committee meetings. Board superintendent feedback. I know we have your evaluation coming up.
Yep.
Corinne had sent out that one mid-season type thing where we're at. I talked to Corinne the other day about putting together, kind of like what we did in the past, an evaluation, take the bullet points that we came up with before, remember maybe, and then let her know where we're at, where she's at. And you'll know a lot of those are not done, obviously, because it's not the year, but since her contract is coming up next year, and we're having a board changeover possibly, it'd be good to get a evaluation done before the end of the year. So she's gonna send the information to you, Mimi, and I.
Okay.
Well, you and I are in the committee, so you and I are gonna review it, and then we'll get it out to everybody else. I'm just giving you guys heads up on it, so we know, everybody knows where it's at.
Can I ask a question about, you're talking about board makeup, and I think maybe it's been discussed, and I just wasn't at the board meeting, but, so we have an open spot, there's a write-in, and whoever gets the most number of write-ins, then we ask them if they're willing,
Right.
Correct.
and if they say yes, they're on the board, if they say no,
Then we go to the next person.
we go to the next person, or do we appoint? We keep going down the list of write-ins,
That's what
It's a
I was
rules.
told.
and then if we get to the,
Two.
if we take all of
The
the,
first one's gonna wanna be with us, it's fine.
if we get all of the real people and not, you know, fictitious
They don't,
characters
they
off the
don't, they
list.
don't
We
put,
don't put those people.
they don't
in
put
the
Mickey
pocket.
Mouse down. He
Okay.
gets votes every time,
I know,
but we
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
how many.
Okay, so once we get through that list, then we would have
Then we
to
would have to
appoint.
appoint, correct.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
I'm hoping we don't get to that point.
So the write-ins are extreme. I was just
Correct.
curious what the
Right.
I hadn't.
I was hoping that there would be somebody from the group when we picked up Jean, the other, it
Yeah.
was like 6 people, 5, one of those people would wanna be part of it. But that didn't happen, so we'll have to go off of what we
It's
get.
Murphy's Law, isn't it?
Exactly. So, anyway, you so expect that coming your way.
And we're trying to get the review done.
I'd like to before the end of the year.
Got it.
Because then, to be fair to Corinne, we have to decide whether or not we're gonna look at extending her, or, you know, giving her a new contract starting in July. And usually when you have that type of position, a changeover, they like to know ahead of time. So if it doesn't happen,
I think
we as a
the
board have
contract
time
requires
to.
it.
you know,
The contract requires it in January.
Yeah.
And it's
The
this
decision.
January, it's not next January.
No,
No,
it's
it's,
January.
yeah.
So,
Didn't we just do this?
It was 3 years.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
This is
so-
my 5th year.
So,
I feel like we just did this
I
last
know.
year, but okay.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
One other, Hiawatha Valley Head, we did meet in Rushford, all 13 of us members were there, schools were there. And we did select Carl Sanderson, or we're gonna vote on it this next week in terms of, that was a recommendation from the superintendents afterwards. So we vote on that this next week in terms of our person, the company that goes out and gives us what we need to do to move ahead with the whether we build or remodel or what we do with our
And what
facilities.
the finances would be and the impact on
Yeah.
the member districts.
Mm.
It was, and I don't know if you realize this, but it was the first time I think we had to go back 3 or 4 years to find a meeting where
Everybody.
every single member of the 13-member ed district was represented.
So
That's good.
they did a good job presentation and everything else. So,
Anything else from that meeting? Anything else come up?
no, well, the only other thing is that if there's 13 boards here, but it only takes 4 people to stop anything.
Because all it takes, if one board
One-
votes against it,
It doesn't.
then it's all or in.
Or all or not?
Yes, it's all or nothing.
So, I mean,
So that's why they were saying you have 4 people on one board voting against it, and the entire thing is done.
So that's what their next step would be.
And that's why they're contracting with a firm to really look into the options. If building a new central location is what we should do, where would it be placed, how much would that cost? A lot of times they were looking at, there was numbers batted around, some of them. I was just like, how big are we building? But, yeah, because they were saying that
That's good.
the 2 buildings, right now, they're ballparking at 7 million, and one architect said, not gonna touch it for 7 million.
it costs $3 million to bring up Kellogg School up to,
Cold.
yeah, so it's that bad.
And it,
So do we put it in?
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
So,
that'll be another year.
question,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. So, our next board meeting is November 1st.
Correct.
So is our meeting after that within the time limit for canvassing the election results? Or are we gonna have to have a special meeting to canvass the results? I can't remember what the time limit.
We have to do it right after, but.
Well,
or
but there's
within-
I think there's a range of days, so, but oftentimes we need
but
We
November, the election is on November,
6th, I think, is that a Tuesday?
Yeah, November 6th.
So we're meeting the 1st and then we don't meet again until.
the 15th,
Mhm.
and that would be, don't you have 10 days?
I think so.
But how does that work though? Do we go through the results and
Well, we
make
have
sure
to
they're
appro-
accurate and then we reach
Well,
out
we
to the
get-
person who was the top? Or do we reach out to the person and we start working our way down the list before we?
We have to canvass the results before we
We have
can
to
do any of
canvass the
that.
results, and, the person wouldn't take over until,
January.
January anyway.
So we have until, how long do we have in order?
Yeah, as long as once we canvass, we got 10 days after the number we just said on that to canvass the results. And then we would go, after that date, we would start going down the list. And
calling
then
people.
before
Well,
January,
maybe
we
check
have
that
to,
out,
Yeah.
find out what the.
yeah, if there is.
Because,
We've
You
never,
don't have
I don't
your
remember
booklet
doing
with
this
you?
before,
No.
do you?
Okay.
You've been in here forever.
Ann is now our new election official.
Oh, okay.
Taking over with Marcia, so we're
Okay.
kind of doing it.
Well,
No,
I mean,
no,
just-
doing,
I know
That's
sometimes I
right.
thought we were within the frame and then we've had a special
Yeah.
board meeting to canvass results, so I'm trying to.
So it's 6th to the 15th, so we're within the 10, barely.
If it
Council
is
has the same
barely,
problem.
that's maybe what the
Yeah.
situation is.
well, and you'll check it out, let us know
Yes.
before the 1st.
Mhm.
Thank you, ma'am. And if we have to do shorter than that, you may have to put out something prior to that.
Yeah.
So, once you find out, which I'm sure you can.
And we
tomorrow
just
and-
made that be the world's best workforce school board meeting.
The 15th,
Yeah.
yes. But it doesn't take
And
All
it's
the-
just a matter of a motion to
Mm.
approve the.
canvassing, yep.
So,
We did get the Victory sprayer from the Victory Corporation for spraying disinfectant. So it's a handheld electrostatic disinfecting sprayer. I entered a competition and we won an $800 sprayer.
What was the repetition, why I like the Victory sprayer.
Okay.
No, it was setting my alarm clock early and being one of the first 600 that applied for it,
Wow.
so.
So is there anything
I-
of significance that we want to discuss?
Scott Sides from
Just
K-12
joking.
was here this week. He is our new, get this right, Deputy Regional Vice President, replacing Sarah Berger. I'll get all the labels eventually. But he, just as we move to Central Region, wants to get to know MNVA, get to know what we do, and really to find out how to support us. And so he said that he would provide as much support as he could with our initiatives as far as graduation rates, as far as finding different ways to make sure that we're improving our test scores and our test participation, since the participation now is impacting our scores. So it's nice to have him on our side. And we talked it once again about the CTE option, so he's going to be spearheading that.
When's the next meeting, maybe have you, for online?
For online, do you want it on November 15th? That, because he can come and talk about the,
Sure.
he would,
Is he gonna be here?
he would like to come back again.
Yep.
So that would be November 15th. Sorry, November 15th, it would be the online school meeting, and so he could, he thinks that by then he could get information about first steps we'd have to take if we really want to consider having that Destination Career Academy. We talked about that this summer. So if we really want to do that for next fall, we need to start going on it now. So if that works, great.
I blame you.
So we're gonna do board self-evaluation at the next meeting?
Correct.
And then how about Corinne's evaluation? Will that
You wanna-
be-
Well, once Weeby gets a hold of it, her and I will look it over, and if we get it done,
Because all of you have to then score
Right.
it too.
right,
So it's gonna take some time, I mean, it's gonna have to move, if we're gonna get it,
before the end of the year, is that what your concern is?
yes.
I think Corinne should have most of it. I don't know if you have it done yet, we can get it to
I
Amy and
just-
myself,
I'll
and we can review it, and
have
maybe
what
then
I
you and I can.
Had this summer and
discuss
add
it.
to it and zip it out to you. I should be able to get that to you tomorrow. I know what I've done.
So we can kind of go from there. And then once we say it's good to go, we can set it out again.
Yeah, I just wanted to know which meeting it was gonna,
Yeah,
you know, when, like a
it
November
goes-
meeting or a
yeah.
December meeting, it's gonna be before the end of the year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And each of the board members has to turn back their evaluation.
Mhm.
So,
That's the plan anyway.
Okay,
Okay, anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
before we move to adjourn, I just wanted to thank Randy Muller
Thank
for
you.
his
Oh.
many years of hard work, and you had just sent out that we had a clean DOT inspection. And I like coaching, running that department is subject to public being backseat drivers, and I just want to really thank him. From myself, and I'm sure the board feels the same way.
He
Yeah,
did
he's
a-
done a lot. He's-
He did a wonderful job. He's gotten us up to, he's got a lot of the software in there now, and he's gone for a lot of certifications, so we could do a lot of the work there. As a board, I will be apprising you as far as, we've got a plan to make it through, next week, as far as drivers. If something happens with one of the buses as far as needing mechanical work, we do have some feelers out as far as different. Tom Reddy even said that he would let us bring one of the buses over to his shop, and of course he would charge us. But at least we've got some different plans, but somebody has to apply to be the transportation director, or we have to look at maybe different ways to configure that job. Maybe it's just somebody wants to be the mechanic and then somebody else is doing the scheduling, and maybe the scheduling can be done, maybe we get a transportation secretary that does the scheduling and does the calling and keeps the records. And
Is Todd reaching out to other schools that have their own bus line to see what they have utilized? I'm just, looking at options. If he's looking at that,
Yep.
it's good to see what others are doing and how it's working for them.
Lanesboro has their own bus. No, Caledonia has Schmidt bus service.
Yeah.
It's better Bernard's.
No, so Caledonia and Spring Grove have Schmidt. I think Mabel is now with Bernard because Schmidt said they didn't have enough drivers to do.
Yeah, but I mean, just some, if he's looking, that's good. Then
Yep.
we can come up with some.
Well, as far as running bus routes too, I know that was a time intensive, just planning the routes, which maybe they don't change that much during the year. I think they probably are subject to a little bit of change during the year, but it's worth contacting contract bus services. They must have software
There is
that
a
runs.
software
Oh,
program.
their
that
software, and then
We had it.
we can get the software.
Doesn't Todd already
update.
have that?
We have it, but we're not up to speed on it. What I'm saying is contact a bus service, find out if we plop you our data points, what will you charge us to
Give us a plan.
The software we had doesn't interface anymore, so we'd have to buy now it's web-based. We had the old system, and so now we'd have to
But
just.
it takes somebody knowing that,
There
doing
is
that
a-
all
yeah.
the time, so that.
We had it for delivery purposes. All facilities do. I mean, most companies
Yeah,
that
I mean,
deliver
UPS
products
has
have
this
it.
down.
And it's a matter of just what you said, giving them the points, what's the best way of doing this, and then it's figured out.
Todd had it all.
So,
Todd knew how to run the program before.
but it, like Michaeline said, it may be something as simple as getting somebody that would say, hey, we'll do it for you at whatever the cost is. And
I mean,
then-
it's just, finding out what does it cost, or do we do it in-house?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think I think it's definitely two different skill sets, being able to maintain a bus and being able to manage all of the
Yeah,
routes.
oh,
And I
yeah.
think the difficulty, just from me, cause this week was a different week, just they're picking up kids at daycare, and like our daycare was closed, and I had to call and say, cause my kid magically gets to preschool in the afternoon, I drop him off at daycare. Well, when daycare's closed, we have to do that, and now they don't need a bus, and it's not that I even see the bus, and it gets complicated,
Oh, I-
field trips and all the sports, and it's just never ending. I'm
No, it is.
it's I'm sure so much work to get all that coordinated and get everybody assigned to work, and so I think setting up the routes might even be the easy part. It's the every day, all the stuff
And the changes.
exceptions to
Yes.
the rule, to the
Yes.
norm.
Yeah, but we were gonna meet as a policy committee to help make procedures to sort of clarify or set down some parameters for what the transportation director is expected to do, or supervisor is expected to do, and what is not, so that they can say no.
So that hasn't happened yet.
No,
So now
yeah.
would be a good time to, with the
so-
change, now would be a good time.
But we don't have a
to start.
transportation supervisor.
Right,
No,
and so
but I
it'd just
mean,
be
it
the
would
two
be-
principals.
Right, is if you're looking at doing some changes, we
Who
wanna
is-
make sure the policy committee is part of that, if we're gonna come up with some policy pertaining.
Well, it was procedures that we were gonna,
Procedures, I'm
we were
sorry.
gonna,
In the interim, if I wanted to do a field trip, I'm a teacher and I wanna do a field trip and I wanna get it scheduled, who do I call and who's?
Todd's the.
Todd.
Todd is
So
the
Todd
point
is now-
person. Well, he always has been.
Todd, well, and then Randy took on a lot of extra responsibility, but Todd was always his supervisor, so now you just call Todd directly. That's why on this board meeting, we saw that Steve got moved to full-time from just a sub driver. And so he moved into a full-time route. He went through it today, so he's ready to start. We've got Plan B if a driver gets sick. We will have to as Randy put it today when he talked about, it, we would have to peel off one route and do vans to cover, but he said, he walked through that plan with all the bus drivers so they know what to do in case of someone getting ill, because it happens.
And somebody will get ill.
Yeah,
I mean,
our bus drivers are human, they're good, but they're human.
so if I'm a parent,
You will
You would
get phone
just-
calls.
well, no, and we just email the school, is that what we're supposed to do? I've never
Most of
really,
the time you call your, you either call Barb if you have elementary student, or
Okay.
you'd call Judy.
and just do the same, just,
do
okay,
the same.
Mhm.
cause sometimes I would just tell Randy.
And a lot of people did, and I think that got to be,
Yeah.
not that you were, but it's
Yeah,
just
no,
that-
I don't have that very often, you know,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah, but when everybody doesn't have it very often.
yeah, well, it's,
Yeah.
it's hard to handle, right?
It's
The
a
best
lot
way
of-
to do it is
Yeah.
just like she said, call the
Just-
appropriate school and they will coordinate it. So. I'm assuming that's what they're gonna put out to people.
We were
remind
lucky
them.
to have him
We
for
were-
as long as we
were
did.
very lucky to have him.
Yeah.
And-
Are we going to let the parents know about this van thing just in advance, that this may occur, or? I would
Like
just
for
be kind of,
different, we have had sometimes where, we have had a route of, I think the day that the sixth grade class trip and the art trip got scheduled on the same day, we did it then. And so we just called people and said, hey, today a van's going to come.
oh, so they would get a call, so
They-
it's
yeah.
not like a van's gonna drop my kids off, I would know in advance,
Yeah.
okay.
That's, well, yeah, you don't want
Okay.
parents wondering why this van is coming into their yard, and then all of our vans are marked, so it's not like it's some random white van showing up.
Okay.
They're
Anything else?
pushing kids out instead of taking them, so.
Any other things? We're all good? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Thank you all for coming this evening. Always a pleasure.
Are we going to